I'll just like to confirm first if everyone can hear me with a show of a thumbs up or a heart or something. Yeah. Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. And welcome everyone. Welcome to the Vase Insider Show. My Dumisani Samuel, Fortunate, Philly, Mona Lisa, welcome, Wendy, Makanaka, Sylvia, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight for the Vase Insider conversation on navigating career transitions from corporate to entrepreneurship. However, I guess what we're going to focus more on in this conversation is how do you navigate the world of entrepreneurship, whether you're navigating or it's a side hustle. We're going to look into all that. And the Vase Insider is designed as an intimate space for practical insight, conversation, and honest reflection and meaningful connection within the Vase community and within our community as women trying to navigate our careers and families and everything. Tonight, we're joined by Kundai Pasi Mari. I'm so excited to have her with us tonight. She will share her own journey and lessons that come with moving from the structure of corporate life to entrepreneurship and the realities that come with building something of your own. We'll use the Q&A chat function to share your questions. We'll also unmute you and admit you to be able to ask your questions and to make the conversation as interactive as possible. We'll reserve some time towards the end for your questions. And I'd like to call upon Kundai at this moment in time, if she can just introduce herself. Welcome, Kundai. Thank you for coming to join us tonight at the Vase Insider.
Thank you so much, Tatenda, and I'm very happy to be here. My name is Kundai, like she said, and I am the founder of Lux Linen, Zimbabwe and Zambia. A retail business that's both in Zimbabwe and Zambia. I am a lawyer by profession. I studied law at the University of Zimbabwe, graduated in 2015. And after that, I actually went straight into law practice. I was a lawyer at a top commercial firm for about 6.5 years. It's a law firm called Mawere Sibanda Commercial Lawyers, where I did most of my law practice, and then I left in 2021 and started a law firm of my own with some friends. And that went on for about a year. And then I decided to go full on into business. At the time that I was in law practice, I had started my business, but which was more of a side hustle that time. But I then went much more into it by 2021. So Lux Linen was formed in 2019 whilst I was in law practice, but I went fully into entrepreneurship in 2021. I'm also a mom. I've got 2 beautiful boys, naughty ones, that keep me on my toes, but I'm happy to have them.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be their mom. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kundi. It's so exciting to hear your journey, and it's amazing where you've come from, right? From university to a top firm, and starting a firm as well, your own firm. It's a very inspiring journey. And looking at your brand at Lux Linen, Zimbabwe and Zambia, it's quite a very a brand that you can look at it and admire. A brand that we've seen that you've created a brand that will last for long, and well done for that. I guess just to go straight into it, I would just want you to explain to the audience what shaped your earliest ideas of who you wanted to become. Did you always want to become a lawyer, or it's something that came up when you're older? And what was the plan? initially?
Thank you. Do you know, it's quite funny. As I was growing up, my vision of who I wanted to be was really shaped by people around me, when you've got
Yeah.
relatives that seem to be doing well. So I had an uncle who was a chief flight attendant at Air Zimbabwe. And he would always dress in this beautiful suit when he was going to fly. And he was then promoted to be the chief air steward, flying with the president at that time. And I always looked at him and said, he looked so presentable. He looked so confident. And I said to myself, I want to be a flight attendant when I grow up. I want to look presentable and, rub shoulders with the president or important people. So I never had law as something that I was thinking from a young age. I think the idea of law then crystallized after I passed my A levels. I had 15 points. I was an arts student, and I was the top of the school at that time. And I even got an Econet scholarship because I was one of the outstanding students in Harare at that time. And that started shaping where I wanted to go because when I was applying now, law became the first option that I had for such results. And
Mm.
as university, as you go through you actually become emboldened with your choice and you become confident with what you've chosen to study.
Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. That's really exciting. And I guess the transition itself from wanting to become from admiring your uncle who was a flight attendant, and then the amazing results come along, and then you feel, oh no, actually, I can do something else, something better. Yeah, it's really exciting. I know we've had such conversations on how people and pivot to something that suits you or that suits a current situation. I know it can be difficult as well, after having studied for a long time to then pivot and say, no, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. I want to go into business. I just want you to just maybe talk about that. Was it not a scary phase for you after having studied law? You had 15 points in your A levels, which is amazing and well done. You then, you had these awards. You went into law school because of that. And then now you decide, some years later, being in a top firm, you start your own firm, and then you decide, no, this is not going to happen. If you can just talk about that experience and how you felt when you at that time that you were trying to navigate and pivot.
So I would say the transition from being an employee in a law firm to deciding I want to be an employer and I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to own my own business and do it well. It was very gradual. I wouldn't say it was sharp. Like I said, Lux Linen was formed in 2019 and it was formed right from the boot of my car. And I say the boot of my car, I mean I'm going to work and I had this passion for interiors.
Mhm.
So my husband and I love to travel, and every time we're newly married couple, I was always so happy, so comfortable, and fit in my suit,
Mhm.
you know. Or I need to carry these pillows back home, but they can't fit in my trying to sneak
Mhm.
out pillows. So so I that passion then started, and I always Harare. And at that time, that was around 2018. there weren't many options
Mhm.
luxury linen. So I just started looking. Every time I would travel, I'll take my time to look around what's there, what can I bring and sell to my friends. That's how the linen would end up in my boot. And as time went on, I actually had a growing demand for such products. And at the same time, my career was also taking a sharp rise, much more demanded work, more time is needed of me, and I'm a mom and I'm a wife. So it was very gradual in that I now had to choose between two competing interests, a
Mm.
growing business and a growing career. The
Mm.
the transition then came in the sense that at a point I decided this business has grown from the boot
Mm.
of my car, and at that time I was renting just a one room at corner Churchill and Borodale Road. There was a house that some women and I were renting. I just had one
Mm.
room in that house,
Mm.
and which is what I wanted to now do, to take the products out of my boot and put them somewhere where people can come and see if I'm in court and I'm not able to attend to someone. So the demand also grew from that one room into something that needed a more professional place to shop. And it also resonated with what I now wanted for that business. So at that point, I felt I had two competing interests. I needed to grow the business. And at the same time, my career was also growing. So I realized, okay, let me try to structure it in a way that I am not an employee, I become the
Mm.
employer.
Yeah.
And that way, I'm able to have flexible hours. I can be there for my business. I can be a lawyer still, and I can be there for my kids.
Mm. Oh, that's really inspiring, Kundi. But I would also want to just know and to just for you to share this, were you not scared to leave because I know definitely you're a very smart woman and you were doing very well in the corporate sector. Were you not scared to take that move for any reason at all?
100%. I mean, this is leaving a structured work environment. Remember, you're leaving a structured work environment. You're leaving a guaranteed salary at the end of the month. You are assuming risk that you
Mm.
do not know about, financial risk, operational risk, and what if it flops? You know, that's the question you're always asking yourself, what if it fails? And I have left a top law firm with an
Mhm.
already established reputation to start building my own reputation in the market. So, I mean, it's really scary. It's one of those periods where you close your eyes and just take the leap. But as
Mm.
you take it, you are trembling.
Mm. Well, so did you have any inner work that you had to do, as a woman, as a mom, as a wife, not just financial or logistical, just before you took the leap, but maybe emotional and spiritual.
So there was a lot of work. Emotionally, the benefit of having a partner, because I started this business, my husband, is you have someone that you can talk to and
Mm.
pour out your fears and tell him, what if it fails? What do we do? Should we invest our savings in this?
Mm.
So I think emotionally, I had that anchor, in a partner, and I was able to have someone I can lean on and talk to and prepare myself for what I was getting into. Um, Spiritually, I think I had the benefit of a community around me. You know, when you are also a prayerful person and
Mm.
you have a church community, um, those people are they're your community, they're your family, they're your
Mm,
village. So when they see you doing something, when they'd seen me venturing into business, they would support, and family also supports. So I had to prepare myself in terms of telling people around me as I started, my family, church members, and as
mm,
well as prayer, because when you're very unsure, prayer anchors you, prayer strengthens you and reminds you that
mm,
you can do this. There's a higher power
mm,
that's behind you.
mm,
Yeah.
mm, mm. No, quite some time and a lot of prayer because it's not an easy task. I know so many of us here and and other women out there, some still employed or some who are having dealing with other businesses, but feel that probably maybe this is not what I really want, or this is not going as planned. So do I pivot? Do I move? Do I transition to the next stage? So what quiet practices of self-discovery would you recommend that these people may begin so that they're able to take that leap as well? They're probably restless and not knowing what to do. Do I jump? Oh, what what would be your recommendation?
I would say definitely number one to understand yourself, um,
Mm,
deep individual understanding. I don't think everyone is built to be an entrepreneur. It's
mm,
unfortunate that our country has made everyone an informal trader, and
mm,
most people have a side hustle or two. But not everyone can be a hustler and an
mm,
entrepreneur. So I would
mm,
say the most important thing is to understand yourself. Are you an
mm,
employee? Do you thrive within an organization that's being led by someone that has someone's vision and you're an executioner,
mm,
so to speak? And then after knowing yourself, I would say um, what's also important is research into what you want to start.
mm,
Are you starting something that you understand, that you know the
mm,
market, that you understand the product, that you understand the audience, your target audience? What are you solving by getting into entrepreneurship?
mm,
So that's also important, that research into the market and understanding your product. And then obviously financial preparation
mm,
is really important after understanding the product you want to get into. Financial preparation now helps you know what's practical and what's not.
mm,
Because sometimes you may have a grand idea, but the
mm,
timing is not yet right because you do not have the financial resources.
mm,
So financial preparation helps you to get into something you are prepared for, that you have the
mm,
resources, and that you will present to the market in the best way that represents who you are.
mm,
And I think that's what's most important.
mm. Oh, I like that. I like how you've really delved into how you need to really internalize and really think about, who are you, and what is it that you want, and what is the current situation around you. Makes me think of the new book by Emma Grede, Start With Yourself. I think the idea is to look at yourself and the position that you're into. I'm not the same as Kundi. Kundi is not the same as maybe or Samantha or Wendy. So you really need to internalize and look at the situation. And from what you've said, what also stuck for me was, you and your husband were traveling a lot. I know your family, I know your background, I know your husband's background, and you do have the opportunity to travel a lot, right? and you took advantage of that situation, whereby you were able to travel into nice hotels and see this very nice linen. So you took advantage of that. So, I guess that's the other thing whereby, we should be able to look into the situations that we're in. What is around me? What do I understand more? And not just jump into linen because Kundi does linen. But, what am I good at? What do I have access to? What's surrounding me? You might have somebody near you who does, your neighbor grows peas or does chickens or grows tomatoes or is into the energy industry. So I guess, I like that whereby, you've really advised the guests here to internalize and look at their current situations and also understand the products that they want to get into before just jumping into, because everybody's doing chickens, let me also do chickens. But do you understand the business itself? You also spoke of financial preparation, how, get into the business once you're financially prepared, you've made a few savings and looking at Zimbabwe itself. I also wanted to ask, did you by any chance have any capital injection, from the banks or things like that? Or, it was your own savings? Maybe you can explain to the audience, are the opportunities that you think as a business owner, you could have access to, you already have branches. Maybe you can also highlight how many branches you do now have. Did you manage to have capital injection, a loan, or you saved? These were personal savings that you've been working with.
Thanks, Tatenda. At least I will not lie and say I started this business with 1 grain of rice,
Yeah.
like what others will tell people. But
Mm,
honestly speaking, I've had different capital injections at different phases of the business.
mm,
Initially, like I said, it was from the boot of my car.
mm,
And my husband started looking at the numbers and said, "Oh, you're making money and you're selling from the boot.
mm,
Let's look for a space." Went to a room. From a room, say we decided, no, this is not looking professional. We need to grow this brand into a proper business, a professional business. And at that point, it was still personal savings. We started a store in Belgravia, which we still have. That was our
mm,
first branch. Still our personal savings. We went to, thereafter we opened at Sam Levy's Village.
mm,
That was our actually first high-end branch, and that was still our personal savings. We
mm,
then decided we want to go to Zambia. Took a flight, went to Lusaka for a weekend, did our market
mm,
research. Still our personal savings. At
mm,
that time, we had 3 branches.
mm,
From there, we thought we need to scale this business, right?
mm, mm,
We do not want it to still look like a taksha business or just a little side hustle. We wanted to actually be an African brand that can be
mm,
franchised in the future.
mm,
So we try to approach Zimbabwean banks. That's the sad reality of doing business in Zimbabwe, especially at a smaller scale. It's
mm,
harder to get capital when you're a small business.
mm,
They'll give their capital to Delta, to Inscore, to bigger brands, bigger
mm,
company. I suppose
mm,
the issue of risk comes into play.
mm,
So struggle to find capital from your normal banking channels.
mm,
And we then had to lean into friends. We then had to
mm,
lean into family, parents that believed in the vision. So we would knock
mm,
on such doors and they would invest, and small scale, in lenders that would believe in the business and say
mm,
we use that support. Another benefit we had as well was operating in Zambia. And being at big malls and having a formal business helped us because we also got capital from Zambia banks, which is quite
mm,
different from Zimbabwe.
mm,
Um, yes, so that helped us to then scale the business and actually make it a bit more of an internationalish brand. Yeah.
mm. No, oh, well done. And you have indeed created a lasting brand. I can see it going far and lasting for years and years because you can tell from the work that you've really put in a lot of effort and there's a lot of love in and likes and linen. You've gone all way, or you've done your best to ensure that it's a proper brand, like you say, that is not looking like a little tuck shop or of some sort. And you know what? Did you said you started the business from the boot, and some people would be like, "No, I can't. If I'm going to do this business, I'm going to start with a shop at Same Levis Village. I'm not going to be selling from my boot." What did that season teach you about humility, resilience, and beginnings? How do you just accept that, this is where I'm starting from, and it's okay?
I'll definitely say, oh, sorry, before I forget, I think there was an
Mm,
aspect asked previously to say currently we have 6 retail stores.
mm,
And of those retail stores in Zimbabwe, we have 4 and 1 in Bulawayo, 3 in Harare, and to
mm.
make them 4, and then 2 in Zambia, 1 in Lusaka, and another one in Kitwe Copper Belt, which is almost like on your
Mm,
way to DRC. I know people
mm,
always say why, but we follow the money.
mm,
So what the initial season taught me was exactly like you've said, humility. Being humble enough to, you have a product
mm,
that to convince people to buy, you need to
mm,
be humble enough to approach them. And
mm,
you need to be humble enough to accept that I need your help, I need your sale, I need you
mm,
to send me and plant a seed in my business.
mm,
I remember at that time, I think COVID happened as well. And you will not believe I would drive across Harare with my
mm,
laptop from work, doing my
mm,
contract, but driving to Manresa, driving to Borodo Brook, driving to Hatfield. I remember I once drove to Budiriro and the client rejected
oh,
the order.
ah,
After imagine after driving all the way, but I still had to be humble enough
mhm,
to remove my lawyer cap and
mhm,
say, and not even tell the client that, you know what, I'm a lawyer, this is not right. You are,
mhm, mm,
but to say, thank you for showing an interest in my product. I understand you're not happy right now,
mm,
but I hope in the
mm,
future you will come back. So I look at
mm,
some of our initial contacts in our database. They're people from way back that I was in contact with at a very humble beginning. And I've actually grown with them, and they also believe in the brand because they've seen it grow. And what
mm,
taught me is that discipline to stay humble, appreciate
mm,
everyone who buys from you, appreciate everyone who
mm,
supports you at any time, because the support comes from different people. It comes from
mm,
friends, comes from people like you,
mm,
and everyone, some people who are just watching and looking and
mm,
thinking, wow, okay, this started small, but it's
mm.
growing.
Yeah, incredible. I would encourage everyone, if you're local, if you're in Zimbabwe or if you're in Zambia, to visit her store and see. So you will really understand the business that she's built, and understand that it's actually possible. I'm sure her story is very practical, and understanding that you can actually start a business, a small business, and scale up and be regional and be international. It's a very inspiring story, one very genuine story whereby she's able to highlight how she started in the boots and how she then asked family and friends, unlike somebody who just wake up one day and have a shop at Same Levis Village, and then they tell you, no, I started this business with, I just sold one pair of sheets of 100% cotton sheets, and here I am. No, it's so exciting. So, I just want you to share, Kundi, what did you underestimate about yourself in the first few months of your business, and what surprised you the most, up until now?
I'd say I underestimated my patience
Mm,
and my resilience. When I say resilience,
mm,
I mean as an entrepreneur, employees when they clock off 5 o'clock, they're done. They close the laptop,
mm,
don't respond to emails. They'll see you
mm,
tomorrow at 8:30. But when you're an entrepreneur, work
mm,
does not stop. Issues do not stop. Your
mm,
transporter is calling you to say, as an example, all goods have been seized at the border, right?
mm,
And you're opening a store in 2 days.
mm,
You have to find a solution. Or
mm,
you get a call to say, and you realize that, or maybe you have a random inventory count and you find out
mm,
your employees have been stealing from you for the
mm,
past 2 months, and
mm,
they've actually created a web very well of doing it.
mm,
Uh, so that there are lessons like that teach you resilience and not
mm,
giving up. And I
mm,
underestimate that about myself. The resilience
mm,
to waking up when things are hard, to keep cracking. Problem solving, I'd say. I actually underestimated my own problem solving techniques, but I think that's what a law degree also equips you with: problem
mm,
solving, critical thinking, which then becomes very pivotal to the resilience you need in life. And when I say
mm,
patience, I would also say you deal with multifaceted issues in a day
mm,
um, that need your decision making. And it does not stop because it's 5 o'clock. It does not stop because it's 7 a.m. Everyone wants you to make a critical decision. So the patience to understand that, and to spread yourself, not
mm,
within, you need to
mm,
find the balance, but the
mm,
patience to spread yourself and understand everything is on my shoulders and this is the life I have.
mm, mm. No, that's really beautiful. I guess there are lessons for everyone, to say, sometimes you take the risk. And once you take that risk, there's so much that you discover about yourself and allowing yourself, you gave yourself the chance, right? Allowing yourself the chance to discover who you are besides what you thought you were initially. What was beyond the lawyer in you,
Mhm.
what was beyond the dreams that you had as a child. So it's really exciting and really encouraging, so a lesson for every woman out there to say, you know what, take the risk, take a leap of faith and believe in God, and allow him to show you more than you know about yourself, right? So knowing that you're a very patient woman, the resilience, something that has actually given birth to this business that has gone regionally and that has grown globally. I just want to find out if there's anyone in attendance who has a burning question and they're worried that they might forget it, or, anyone who'd want to interact at this point in time from what Kundi has already shared. If you have a question, maybe you can raise your hand and maybe you can, Lionel, oh, Faith can help us with unmuting the guest, and we can have a very interactive conversation.
I Tatenda. So we've just unmuted everyone. So I mean, given everyone the
Yeah,
opportunity to unmute themselves. So I'm just gonna rig and throw in my own question here.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So my name is Lionel. I work with the events and content team at the Vase, right? So this, the really intriguing part of the conversation for me was when you spoke about the transition to from a local business into a regional or internationalizing business, right? So
mhm,
we're hosting the Vase is hosting a summit this October on trade and leadership. And we're essentially looking to replicate what you're doing, have more or Kundai Maris from Zimbabwe going into the region and starting businesses, expanding their businesses and taking advantage of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. So my question is really around the point at which you decide that you want to internationalize the business, right? Because for some people, the usual playbook is you wait until you really dug deep roots in your current market and you're really well established, and then you look to go into the region. But it sounds to me like you took a bit of an earlier risk while you were still
mm,
scaling locally. You saw an opportunity into the region and you went for it. So, yeah, just at what point do you decide? I'm sure it's sector specific as well, but yeah, just from your experience, at what point do you decide, or did you decide this is the right time to go international? And any pertinent lessons from that experience?
Thank you, Lionel, for that question. Um, it's a very important one, I think, as we talk about scale. What happened with this business, Lux Linen, was we scaled into Zambia in 2021. How we decided that was, I think every business owner or every entrepreneur needs to be aware not just of their community around them, but to actually have a global awareness. And in our case, we decided to make it Southern Africa. What's
mm,
happening in other markets? Is there a gap for my skill? If there's a gap, let me go and find out what's happening.
mm,
So like I said, we love to travel, my husband and I. So we took a flight. I mean, Zambia is like a 40-minute flight from Harare, the cheapest flight, even when you compare it to Bulawayo.
mm,
Took a flight to Zambia, $190. We were in Zambia. We looked around. There was no competition. In
mm,
terms of luxury linen.
mm,
So we looked at the big malls because most people think Zimbabwe is advanced, but no. In terms of retail and um, just the availability of foreign products, Zambia is way ahead. They've got bigger malls, more options of international brands. So we went through those malls, and the linen that was being offered was nothing close to what we have.
mm,
We said there's a gap, right?
mm,
How do we bring the product there? We started looking. And I think that's where the interest came in. First of all, through a competitor analysis of what's in the market. And secondly, it was also diversifying risk. As you know, our economy is very volatile.
mm,
Um, like I said, I mean, even lending, you can walk into Stanbic and have trouble to get money as a business. But I walk
mm,
into Zambia, I am a foreign business, I can get lending.
mm, mm,
Um, or I'm in Zambia and their currency is very stable, right?
mm,
The kwacha is very stable. Your your spending, your revenues are very predictable. Um,
mm,
it's not much, even politically that happens that affects businesses, in my view,
mm,
compared to our
mm,
own.
mm,
So those are decisions that we were looking at as we were expanding into Zambia. The market, the opportunities, the gap, the proximity even to Zimbabwe, it all just tied together and made sense. Especially when it comes to even when I look at the customer profile, I think we're almost the same, Zimbabweans. Yeah. So it made sense. Yeah.
Is there a follow-up there, Lionel?
No, I'm sold. I'm opening my little cantemba in Zambia next week.
In Zambia, yes.
Yeah, I see we've got a few people with hands up.
Yeah, sure. Well,
Melody,
maybe
Melody,
I think
Melody,
Mercy.
I think Melody was the first one, I think.
Okay, all right, sure.
Yeah.
Melody, hi.
Thank you.
You want to go ahead?
Hi, Tatenda. Sure. Thank you, Tatenda, and thank you, Kundai. So my question is that many local SMEs are struggling to move beyond the survival mode. What was a strategic shift that enabled you to build a legacy brand? I know you talked about you having the support from your husband and your community, but beyond that, is there anything else that probably you can just share with us?
Can you come again with the question? Sorry, Melody.
All right. Many local SMEs struggle to move beyond the survival mode. So what was your strategic shift that enabled you to build your legacy brand?
Right. So I would say you can hear me, correct?
Yes, I can hear you.
A strategic shift that enabled me when you compare to other local SMEs that are looking for survival was the why, because the why will inform your strategy. So the why for me initially, like I said, this was more just a side hustle. I'm at work, I'm doing my 9 to 5, right? But at some point when I combined my skills with my husband, we looked at it from let's create a brand. How do we do that? We need to position the product in a certain way. How do we do that? We have to have presence at reputable malls, right? We need to, everything, even how we presented the brand positioning, which also meant I now needed to leave my 9 to 5 and focus on this much more. Simple things like, most people are running SMEs and they haven't even registered properly for tax, right? So they can't pitch for corporate orders, right? Or simple things like registering a company. Some SMEs have not properly registered their companies. Or approaching suppliers and actually asking for exclusive distribution. So we had to strategically look at it from, we want to build a retail brand where it's not just oh, by the way, I'm also selling chickens. No, it's positioned in a way that if I'm selling chickens, I'm selling them in Pick and Pay, where someone then they look at how I've packaged my product, how I am merchandising my product, and where do you find my product? So it was a very intentional and deliberate strategy to ensure the brand is positioned in a way that it's just not looking like any side hustle.
I guess
I'm not sure it answers.
I love it. Thank you so much for answering that.
Yeah, great. I guess the other thing would be, the time that you were building the brand, you ensured that, like you've rightfully said, that, it was a brand that people could follow, a brand that, people would fall in love with because it was luxury. And, you worked really hard in building a brand that is acceptable in society. And I guess the demand itself, the demand, whilst you say that's when you decided, no, there's so much opportunity in this, you ended up having so many clients. That's how you then managed to move from, the boot to the little room and so forth. So I guess and that also helped accelerate the business as well. And there's Natasha Kanyonganise. You can go ahead with your question, Natasha. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hello, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tatenda. Thank you, Kundai. So my question is, I think it's a very simple question, but I wanted to know what factors did you put into consideration when you decided that, when you realized that your business is now growing and you decided to move from your car boot to Big Gravia to Semi Levy and then next to Zambia. So it's like, what did you consider when you were deciding your target market?
Thank you, Natasha. If I heard you well, you want the factors I considered in moving or scaling the business, right? And
Yes.
factors I considered in the target market.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll start with the target market. I think the factors I considered were I love creating sustainability, right? And consistency and a product that has a reputation. So when you are choosing, when you're deciding what you need to attract a certain target audience, you need to think, do I just want anyone that has $1, right, to spare? Or do I want someone who is going to attach themselves to the quality product I have, which means it means I need to provide them with something premium. People that can trust you for something, not people that are just looking at, I need, I'm trying to think of an example. I just need bread, even if it's not nicely sliced, I just need bread, right? Versus someone who's going to say, I want gourmet bread that promotes wellness, that promotes health, so those are the factors that then influence what kind of audience you're going for. Are you going for middle to upper class, or are you going to the lower class that doesn't really care about quality, that just wants a product just because they want? I hope that answers the first part. And then if I heard you correctly on the other part, to say factors that influence the transition from the boot and so on. Obviously, like I said, financial preparation. Those are the factors. That's one of the biggest. I had to ask myself, are we financially ready to take the leap? Why? Because in your boot, you're not paying rentals. You do not have an employee. So you literally do not have overheads, right? So did we have enough money to actually assume certain overheads in a way that even if a month has low sales, we're still able to meet our obligations? And at the same time, it was also a mental readiness to say, you cannot just start a business without certain skills, like mentally, that I'm talking about, discipline, right? I have enough training from my job to start something of my, to become an employer, and to not have someone tracking me to say, have you done this contract? Have you reviewed this person's performance? I needed to be my own employer. So I become my own, what can I say, tracker, so to speak. So it needed that readiness in terms of skill. It needed that readiness in terms of finance. And I hope that answers.
Yes, thank you so much. You did.
Okay, I think we'll have the last question from Shido, and then we move on.
Thank you, Tatenda. Thank you, Kundai. I wanted to ask, since this is May is the World Health Mental Month, I wanted to ask, what measures do you have in place for your mental health? Because leaving a 9 to 5 with its predictability is quite hard, and it's quite demanding, like what you were saying, that there's no one to follow up on you. So what measures do you have in place that you don't have to suffer from burnout, since you're a mother and you have all these business acquisitions that you have to look over?
Thank you so much. I think that's a very relevant question, especially in this age that we are. To be honest, I have learned that I cannot do it all, and I cannot do it all in 24 hours. I prioritize my own time, especially in the morning. I go to the gym every day without fail. I find that it helps me to start my day with a very clear mind, and it helps me start my day with so much energy and impetus to take on tasks in the morning. And what I also think helps, to be honest, is leaning onto other people. The thing with entrepreneurs is we want to do it all, and we have a certain way of doing it that we feel, other people will not do it as well as I do, right?
Mm,
You need to actually lean into people around you. So, for example, I probably go to Zambia once in 4 months. Why? Because I've identified certain strengths in my sister who I have allowed to manage the day-to-day operations of my Zambia branches. So she stayed there. I set her up there, everything, accommodation, set her up in school to even do a business degree. So she does my day-to-day. She understands my vision, she understands my standards, and she's someone I trust.
mm,
In Zimbabwe, I've also understood that this one is tricky because I want to be everywhere. But I'm learning to understand I cannot do everything. I'm bad at accounting. I hate maths. But I lean into other people that can do it so that I do not have to do it. So I think that helps me reserve energy and time for things I enjoy, which is probably strategy for the business, maintaining the standards and operationally still having a hand in what happens in each store.
mm.
I
Oh,
hope that
thank you so
answers.
much, Kundi, for that. That is very insightful, and I like how you've empowered your sister. Even if she's in your business, you've also really, considered that she'll need to upgrade her credentials to become more, into the business itself. I guess for me, great leaders are those that empower their employees, right, to ensure that they grow. It's not that, some people will not empower their employees and think that, oh, if I empower this employee, they're going to leave. But, I mean, that was a very bold step that you took. And they always say great leaders are the ones who empower their employees and make them happy enough to stay as well. So well done. That is a great lesson for myself, and I hope for others as well, to say, you know what, if you need to invest in the people who are working in your business as well, if you have the capacity to do so. I just want to ask as well, Kundi, in terms of your brand, how did you manage to build trust in your brand? People knew you as a lawyer, and then now all of a sudden you're a founder and the CEO of an emerging business. How did you manage to build trust with your clientele?
I would say building trust takes time, but I really think being a lawyer was the biggest advantage to it, because initially my market was professional lawyers around me. So knew me, they knew what I stand for, so it was quite easy to build the brand from there. And then after that, I would say how we build trust amongst people is by just offering a quality product that they can trust, being consistent in it. So you'll see, like, even in Zimbabwe now, they're knockoff, I would say, what can I say? What are those fake products called? Someone will sell the same product that you have for a ridiculous price, because they want the profit, right? But you end up losing your trust. So I think obviously what's helped initially was being a lawyer and tapping into your community, and then to transcend above the lawyer space meant I needed to rely on the product and ensure it's consistent enough to keep on spreading its own reputation.
Thank you for that. I'll proceed to ask you, in line with the brand itself, and visibility, if you can just explain to the audience, to the ladies who are here tonight, what role has visibility played in your business? Sometimes people will start businesses and they shy away. You don't know who runs this business. They don't want to be known. There's no face to the business itself. How has visibility helped your business scale, and in what way?
So
How have you been visible? Yeah.
I think visibility is really important, especially in the initial stages, because remember, you are trying to entice people, you're trying to convince people to believe in what you're starting and to speak your name in other rooms where you're not there. So visibility becomes important in building a community. However, I think it needs to be measured at a certain level. Why? Because too much visibility in a world of demand, which is the world we're in, social media demand, it can dilute your worth and your message. You're called on to different award shows, you are called on to different platforms to speak, platforms that probably do not enhance the quality of your brand. I think it needs to be measured at a certain point, and to understand is depending on what your brand positioning is. My brand position, I do not want to be the face of my brand, right? I want it to transcend myself and to have someone like KFC. I mean, you go to Rwanda, you find KFC, no one asks for the owner, they trust the brand. One walks into Louis Vuitton and asks, who is the owner? I need to buy Louis Vuitton because I know the owner. That's not what so it also depends on what you're starting. But I think visibility needs to be measured, and to choose platforms that reflect your value and speak to your worth. So for example, the Vase is a very intimate and measured platform that has the right kind of members and audience. Versus if I go to, I won't say names, but I were to always be at speaking platforms where even the members themselves are questionable in society, or yeah. So it's important, but it needs to be measured.
Amazing. I love that, it's something that we've been looking at the Vase, and thank you for that commendation. we've been looking at it at the Vase to say that, there's so many creatives right now, your influencers, everybody's glued on TikTok and on Instagram and things like that. But then, what happens after so and so? If somebody's no longer there, probably you're just doing workouts and everything, probably you get an injury. What happens to that brand or that product itself that you're offering on Instagram or TikTok? So it's something that at the Vase we're really like have been looking into and encouraging our members to say that, we need to create lasting brands, right? Brands that go beyond Tatenda, brands that can live past Kundi, Pasi, Mari, and, even generations can go for generations and generations to come. A problem that Africa is currently facing right now, whereby, we build these businesses, but then they die with the founders, but then businesses like KFC, like McDonald's, Coca-Cola, they've gone for generations and generations. And I really appreciate that you've addressed this issue and to say, it's not just about Instagram. It's not just about TikTok. As Africa, we need to move forward, and that's how we're going to assist our economy and help Africa grow, because we're having brands that are growing as well. Thanks so much for that, Kundi. I also wanted to ask you a question. Did you have a mentor or a sponsor or someone, who held your hand as you transitioned, as you pivoted, somebody who was able to take you step by step to say, this is what you do when you're growing a business. When you got stuck, you'd always go back. Did you have somebody like that? Or, you a very strong woman and, you just said, I'm going to do this?
No, you cannot do it without leaning into other people. I think when actually for the longest time, one of my close mentors was my senior partner at Mawere Sibanda, who was Miss Sharon Bwanya. Quite close at work, and I admired her work ethic. I admired her hard work, her discipline, and how she approached anything that is given to her. So she was my mentor, or she is my mentor, because sometimes we may not talk, but if I have a problem, I will call her, lean into her for any advice, and ask her for her opinion if I have any challenge. So professionally, she was there, and even just on a personal level, she's been there. I would also say from an entrepreneur level, from an entrepreneur level, I've also had my family, actually. My aunt is also an entrepreneur. That's my nini, who's wife to my bam nini. She built she manufactures soap in Zim. She distributes in all supermarkets in Zimbabwe, and it was distributing in Tanzania. I think she actually emboldened me to say, no, Zimbabwe is not do not be confined to your national borders. So she would travel as far as Tanzania, and you'd find her soap there. And she also had other businesses because she spread herself well, which is a filing business. So if you get into any surgery, doctor surgery, and you find a filing cabinet, 90% that's her company. So she tapped into her husband's community, because the husband is a high profile doctor, and they were able to start something they were able to manufacture a product that had a ready market in Zimbabwe. So I would say she was also my mentor in business, because I would then ask her, what do I need to, to approach such a situation? How do I prepare myself across, not just in Zimbabwe, but to pitch my business in other countries? Yeah.
Amazing. It's really amazing to know that you've had women, very powerful women who've held your hand, and for you to acknowledge these women is really amazing, and I commend you for that. Shout out to Sharon, and I'm sure she's been part of the Vase as well. She's been a speaker for the Vase, and yeah, and your aunt or your sister-in-law.
Yeah.
In Shona, it was my Nini and Bamnini. So anyway, either. So I also want to ask, looking back, what would you have done differently if you were starting again?
If I was starting again, I would definitely say, what would I do differently? Probably the scaling phase, I would have done it slowly, more gradually. Because when we scaled, I think after Sem Levies and Lusaka, we then scaled fast to Blue Whales. Same time, we scaled really fast into Kitwe. At the same time, scaled again in Harare. So I think we had the illusion that it was easy to scale the past locations or to scale the business in the previous locations. So why not? We can do it without really taking a step back and saying, and actually analyzing some opportunities and contracts. They're not always as rosy as they look, right? A location doesn't always seem appealing as it is until you're there. So you only get into there and you realize, oh my God, I'm paying this much rental and there are no sales at this mall, you know? So I would scale it much more slower at certain points, do a thorough risk analysis at those points, and allowed time and patience to inform steps.
No, thank you. Thank you so much, Kundi. This has been so incredible, having this conversation with you. I've learned so much in my own personal capacity. And I would like to hand over now to Mercy Chigomam Sekua, who's also the co-founder of the Vase, and she'll be taking over from here.
Thank you so
Wow,
much.
wow, Kundi and Tatenda. Wow, 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 wow. The storytelling, Kundi, is so beautiful, so succinct. And I mean, you're an absolute powerhouse. And I feel quite privileged. And I think I speak for everybody else on the platform today. Thank you so much. Before we go into the final steps, I just wanted to find out from you, Kundi, do you have any parting thoughts that you want to share with everybody? Any key takeaways that you really want people to take away from you today? Because everything you've said so far, absolutely phenomenal. But I just want to give you 3 minutes just for you to wrap up and say, what are your parting thoughts? What do you want us to take today from everything you said?
Well, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful time chatting. It actually felt like I'm just talking to a good old friend that I haven't met for coffee in a while. So thank you so much, Tatenda, for this opportunity. Thank you, Mercy. It's such an honor. I think what I would say in parting, because I've said most of it throughout the discussion, but if you're thinking of transitioning from a certain career or within your career, I would say my story probably just shows you that take the leap, right? Do not be afraid, because what if you fly, Risk is risk until you take it and find yourself flying. If you fall, That's okay. Pick yourself up, find what are the learnings. And I also think one big thing in Zimbabwe is people do not share the real story. They love talking about the success. I've been doing big sales, I'm doing big deals. But there's so many unglamorous points in the journey, and people don't talk about them. People will say, I built this with all my money. People don't talk about who was helping you along the way. So I think sharing that story authentically is really important, and leaning into others. If you have a setback, oh, you've gone through this, can you share your notes? What helped you, pull yourself during this moment, during this phase, is really important. And what I would also say, if you are now starting, if you're very clear you want to start this, understand your why. Do not start something just because someone else started something. Or because, like Tatenda said, your neighbor is doing chickens and you think, chicken zine mari, or I've calculated it, I can make $5 per bed. Or if I get into gold, everyone is doing gold, I just need to get a mine, I need to get a partner, it's so easy, ABC. It's not that easy. So do not compare yourself with others, and make a personal assessment of yourself, your strengths, and understand what you're getting into the most. Let's lean into each other. I think such platforms are really important in sharing the story, in motivating each other, and please keep on doing this work. Do not even tire. You're doing a good job, and it's a wonderful platform. Thank you so much for having me.
No. Thank you, Kundai. Absolutely beautiful. I think at the Vase, we have absolute respect for leaders, specifically women who are absolutely willing to share themselves authentically and just to multiply, right? Because I think through the stories that we share and really talk about and get into conversation, that's where the most valuable conversations come out, and we start building a muscle and resilience across everyone that we impact in life. So Kundai, absolutely thank you for sharing yourself today. I just wanted to do a recap of what really absolutely stood out for me from this conversation. It's that entrepreneurship is just not about having an idea. It is about discipline, resilience, professionalism, and the courage to keep building with intention. So that intentionality came through for you, and also just being very deliberate around who are you trusting with your vision and your dreams, the importance of understand how to monetize your work. I loved when you said, we went to Kitwe, and Kitwe is the biggest mining region in Africa as well. They generate a lot of money. So when you say that, I say there's thinking, right? You're very deliberate about where am I placing my money? Am I actually going to get money out of it? So it's teaching us that entrepreneurship is really about understanding where am I going, why am I going, and what am I going to get out of it, right? What risk am I taking, and where am I willing to place it? So that was an absolutely beautiful business move for you. Professionalizing your business. Well, I loved it when you said, I used to sell out of the boot of my car, then I got a room, and it really didn't show out the brand. But then we started asking ourselves, how to build a better brand? And you're really intentional about that. So building the right networks, absolutely staying humble through growth, and it comes beautifully as you speak as well. Recognizing the value of mentorship. I mean, you touched on it just now, right? Having thinking partners and how they actually bolster and scaffold you as you build your business. That's important. And you spoke about something also very dear to me as a leader is wellness matters. I mean, some people would even go further and say, wellness is also your wealth, right? So as you're thinking, as you're scaling, how are you staying physically capable of staying up with that pace of how you're working? So gym, if you can't afford gym, running across the block or just taking a walk is actually important. And I think also something that you said for me, Kundai, that stood out, which everybody can take away if they didn't, is the value of in leadership is also trusting the people around you, identifying talent, the story about how you identified, let me bring my sister on board, and not only just bring her on board and be your administrator, but actually building her into a business leader. So the business course that you helped her do is really having her now understand what is your vision, which you clearly articulated, but you also enabled her to really understand it and then starting to build upon it with the right tools that you gave her. So it's trusting people enough for them to carry your vision forward. So I very much really love what you said. And I think what made the discussion today beautifully is how practical you were. And you keep on saying a lot of people don't talk about the challenges. They don't talk about, and you said I didn't start from a grain of rice. You know, you're really telling us the story. I just didn't come up with 100 pair of shoes and I made $1 million in a day. So that's inspiration, Kundai. Please stick with it. And I love brand building. Your brand shines through, and really key takeaway to everybody is your brand again is your wealth. So build a brand. Okay. So thank you, Kundai. A special thank you to Tatenda, our co-founder as well, for anchoring the conversation. It's quite thoughtful, and the entire team at the Vase, Faith, Rubimbo, Lionel. Thank you for all the hard work behind the scenes. This has been smooth running and very much beautiful for me. So thank you for that. You brought also a vision to life, and we continue building meaningful spaces together to grow and connect women. And to our audience, thank you for the engagement and participation throughout the session. Beautiful questions from Charmaine, Melody, and everybody else who participated. Thank you so much for bringing this alive. My only ask is you go further, pass it on. This is not the only Vase Insider session we're having. We're going to have multiple sessions. So please be connected to us on all our social media platforms, and stay tuned to what is to come. We do hope this conversation leaves you very encouraged to continue building boldly, being really able to research your market, understand who you're going into partnership with, build teams that scaffold you fully, and you continuously pursue your vision resiliently. So from me and the team, it's thank you, everybody, and have a beautiful evening further. I don't know, Tatenda, if you had any other parting thoughts you wanted to share, but it's a wrap. Thank you so much, everybody. This has been amazing.
Thank you, Mercy. I think we're